All right. So if you can read along, if not, don't worry about it. I'm going to read it for you. So when I was going through this project 2025, and what you realize is that there's a lot of people that contributed to it. A lot of people that contributed to it. I don't know whether it's the type of thing where they just, I mean, there's pages and pages of contributors. There's pages and pages of people that, like, I guess had more than just contributing, but they actually wrote. So I don't know, but there's a lot of people in the Republican Party that have contributed, I guess, to this project. So some of the things that we've heard about Project 2025, like just like Danny said, I think it was Danny, we're going to be in shackles. We're going to be in shackles. They're trying to take away this right, take away our freedoms, take away all these things. So I looked at, let's actually go through it. Let's figure out if we can break down ourselves, if we're intelligent enough to actually read the 2025 project and actually process it on our own and give our takeaways and see if it's exactly what the liberals have been making it seem that it is, if it's something to fear. So when you look at what I'm showing you right now, I'm going to read it on my phone. It says the Heritage Foundation is once again facilitating this work, but as our dozens of partners and hundreds of authors will attest, this book is the work of the entire conservative movement. As such, the authors express consensus recommendations already forged, especially along four broad fronts that will decide America's future. One of the things that stuck out when reading this was that a lot of the people that, like, even if you contributed to one part, so everybody didn't agree with every single different part of it because they got contributions from different people. So that was just generally accepted. Or that was, they actually were clear when it came to that. All right, so let me hold on, let me pull up my notes. Okay, so the first thing that I want to talk about is, what is the purpose of it? What is the purpose of Project 2025? So, restore the family. This is number one. Restore the family as the centerpiece of American life and protect our children. Does that sound like we're going to be in shackles or something? Let me read it again. Restore the family as the centerpiece of American life and protect our children. Number two, dismantle the administrative state and return self-governance to the American people. Now, a lot of people were bringing this part up, saying like, oh, he's going to fire everybody. Yes, they're firing. Why don't you look at who they're going to fire? When you research the article, they're firing people that are not elected, but that have the capability of establishing policies. Why should people who are not elected, I think they call them bureaucrats in here, why are people who are not elected in positions to create policies? And to how this breaks it down is they end up taking away a lot of the power that Congress would have through the people. And these bureaucrats are actually the ones that put a lot of these policies in play. So they're the ones that are shaping our laws in a lot of ways, but we don't even elect them. So how does that make sense? So dismantle the administrative state and return self-governance to the American people. Number three, defend our nation's sovereignty, borders, and bounty against global threats. Defend our nation's sovereignty, borders, and bounty against global threats. Does that sound like a bad thing? Does that sound like we'll be in shackles? When you look at the border crisis that we're experiencing right now, clearly that makes sense, right? And this was written a couple years ago. Or I'm sure they started to put it together. I forget exactly. I know it came out of, based on what I was reading, it seemed like they've been working on it for a lot of years. I don't see how defending our nation's sovereignty, borders, and bounty against global threats would be a bad thing. Or as they like to say, for Black people, it's going to put us in shackles. Number four, secure our God-given individual rights to live freely, what our Constitution calls the blessings of liberty. Everybody wants freedom, right? So I don't understand why these things are being put out in a way that it's going to take away our freedoms, right? But I'm sure that's mostly only about the abortion issue. And we're going to get into the abortion topic. So some of the things that are in these first pages that I looked at were universal school choice, abortions, and we're going to touch on these things, and a couple others. But I want to go to page 4 on here. Hold on one second. I just want to make sure that you guys can properly read along. I want to read this to you because one of the hold on. Is this it right here? Today, the American family. All right, boom. I want y'all to take a look at this. And don't worry about reading it. I'm going to read the part that I want y'all to pay attention to. One of the things that, or if you could pinpoint one problem, whenever I talk to Democrats and Republicans, especially when they're trying to scare me as a black person, especially when they're trying to scare me as a black person, Ursi is funny. Yo, apparently the chat is going crazy. I can't pay attention to the chat right now. Yo, Urs, hold down the chat. Make sure it's not getting too violent. Yo, let's keep it respectful as always. I'm not paying attention to the chat. So respect Urs' word. If Urs tells y'all to calm down, we got to calm down a little bit. But like I said, I'm not even looking at the chat. But one of the most important issues that always comes up, especially when they're trying to scare me in as a black person, you're going to be locked up if Trump, you're going to be in shackles. It's going back to slavery. When we talk about the black family, fatherlessness, fathers not being in the household, us not having strong male leaders in our community is what we suffer from the most and what destroys our communities the most, and it's not even close. Can we agree on that? If we can agree on that, how come you don't hear any Democratic candidates bringing this up? How come you rarely actually hear Republican candidates bring it up? The only Republican candidate that actually used to push for it was Larry Elder. And he actually, it's a funny exchange between him and Vivek, because Vivek brought it up in one of the debates that he was having when he was still running for president. And it's the fact that fatherlessness in the black community, RFK has brought it up. A lot of other candidates seem to bring it up, except the Democratic Party. And why? It's because we always talk about why. Because the Democratic Party, it's their job since Lyndon B. Johnson, that president that lady at the NABJ highlighted as saying, like, Trump, you're not better than LBJ. You're not better than Johnson because he passed the Voting Rights Act. The policies and programs that Lyndon B. Johnson put in place were to replace the black man in the household. To replace the black man in the household. We heard the guy Smart before say that the black woman has always been the greatest tool, the greatest soldier in the white man's army. Now, what he was referring to was the liberal army. Black women have been that tool. Now, it's, in my opinion, it's because black men have done such a poor job with leadership, but neither here nor there, wherever you stand on there. I want you to take a listen at the Project 2025. This is page 4. This is page 4 of what is discussed in this plan. I'm going to read it to you. Today, the American family is in crisis. 40% of all children are born to unmarried mothers, including more than 70% of black children. Let me read that again. This is Project 2025. The thing that's supposed to make black people scared and shake in our boots and put us back in slavery. This is what we're talking about here. They're actually going to bringing to the forefront the number one problem that hurts black communities and black families. Why would a racist organization bring this about? Why would they actually tell us exactly what's wrong with our communities? Why would they actually put a plan together to improve fatherlessness if they're trying to destroy the black community? Because even though it affects, just like as they properly brought up, that it affects America overall, and we've talked about this before, how a lot of the problems that are usually black problems are now creeping into, based on culture and the impact that black culture has had on overall America, are creeping into to white families and other families and cultures as well. Let me read this again. Today, the American family is in crisis. 40% of all children are born to unmarried mothers, including more than 70% of black children. There is no government program that can replace the hole in a child's soul cut out by the absence of a father. Now, Black Lives Matter was supported by the Democrats. They were right there with them saying defund the police and all this other goofy stuff that they were pushing. But the Black Lives Matter mission was to destroy the patriarchy, to break down the traditional family structure of a father-led household. But we know that father-led households lead to greater results for Black families specifically and families overall. So it almost seems as if Black Lives Matter is working against the Black community, and the Democrats that supported Black Lives Matter, along with George Soros and all the money that he gives, maybe they're working actually against the Black family, against the Black community. And maybe Project 2025 is actually giving us the game that we actually need to improve our families. Let's read it again, because I'm only 2 sentences in. Let's start over. Today, the American family is in crisis. 40% of all children are born to unmarried mothers, including more than 70% of Black children. There is no government program that can replace the hole in a child's soul cut out by the absence of a father. Fatherlessness is one of the principal sources of American poverty, crime, mental illness, teen suicide, substance abuse, rejection of the church, and high school dropouts. So many of the problems government programs are designed to solve, once again, so many of the problems government programs are designed to solve but can't are ultimately problems created by the crisis of marriage and the family. The world has never seen a thriving, healthy, free, and prosperous society where most children grow up without their married parents. If current trends continue, we are heading towards social implosion. Furthermore, the next conservative president must understand that using government alone to respond to symptoms of the family crisis is a dead end. Federal power must instead be wielded to resolve the crisis and rescue America's kids from familial breakdown. The conservative promise includes dozens of specific policies to accomplish this existential task. Does this sound racist? Like, does this sound like Black people are going to be thrown in shackles? But maybe they just know, maybe the Democrats know that Taraji can scream and looking like Diana Ross or Tina Turner, whatever she was dressed up as, can scream like a crazy person on TV and tell you, they're taking away your rights. You better look at Project 2025, because they know that none of us are going to actually read it. What do they say about Black people? If you want to hide something from a Black person, just put it where? Put it in a book. Not this Black person, not us. We're going to read it. We're going to read it. Let's keep going. Some are obvious and long-standing goals, like eliminating the marriage penalties in federal welfare programs. Hold on. That's some of the stuff that the president that lady was talking about put in play. Gave us the Voting Rights Act, gave us the welfare programs. Listen to what I just said once again. Some are obvious and long-standing goals, like eliminating marriage penalties in federal welfare programs and the tax code, and installing work requirements for food stamps. Instead of incentivizing assistance for people that are not married, how about you incentivize people to get married? You know what happens in the military? You're incentivized to get married, and people sometimes get married early. Maybe we need more marriages. Let's incentivize people staying together. If it helps the kids, why would we not incentivize that? I know a lot of people are going to say, well, if it's not a healthy relationship, and okay, cool. It's also not healthy for our kids to grow up without two parents in the household. So whose health is more important? Let me keep going. Hold on. But we must go further. It's time for policymakers to elevate family authority, formation, and cohesion as their top priority, and even use government power, including through the tax code, to restore the American family. Today, the left is threatening the tax-exempt status of churches and charities that reject woke progressivism. They will soon turn to Christian schools and clubs with the same totalitarian intent. The next conservative president must make the institutions of American civil society hard targets for woke culture warriors. Anything sound super racist in there yet? I just want to make sure. Am I missing something that sounds super racist? The next thing that it talks about is a concept that I wasn't as familiar with, which is universal school choice. Is anybody familiar with universal school choice? Let's move on to the next page. Like I said, these are just the first couple pages, people. These are just the first couple pages. Hold on. These are just the first couple pages. I don't know. You tell me, am I missing something? Maybe that's on page 700. Maybe the racist stuff is on page 800. I don't know. But what I would ask is for all of these people, because Joy Reid even put up a certain segment where they were saying all these things about how racist this is, just give us a page number. I'm giving you page numbers. You know what they're doing? They're saying, oh, the Bible said this, but they're not telling you, okay, tell me exactly where it says that in the Bible. And I'll just go look it up on my own. I'm giving you the page numbers. Beware of people that give you information without telling you exactly how to look it up yourself, because they do not want you to look it up. They want you to just accept what they're saying, accept what their limited objectivity has forced them to accept, and push their same agenda. Let's move on to the next page. So we're going to talk about universal school choice. So I had to look up what universal school choice was. I'll give you the definition that ChatGPT gave me. Universal school choice refers to policies that allow public education funds to be used for a wide range of schooling options, including public, private, charter, and homeschooling. This system aims to give families the freedom to choose their educational environment that best fits their child's needs, rather than being restricted to schools based on geographic location. Proponents argue that it promotes competition and improves educational quality, while critics contend it can divert funds from public schools and increase educational inequality. When I first read it, I'm with universal school choice. Let's take more ownership. Let me use some of that school funding to push some of these apprenticeships, to get some of these trades back in school. The educational system is not working. In inner cities, whether it's Baltimore, whether it's Chicago, whether it's cities in Louisiana, the kids can't read. The system is failing. If the parents want to be able to use tax money that they're paying to help their kids, to help educate their kids in different ways, why would we be against that? These inner cities that the kids can't read are already getting more funding than the other cities. Why do you think they put all these inner city kids on self-contained and they put them in the STARS program? See, what a lot of people don't realize is, what you know how there's high honor roll and honor roll? It's still special education. The school gets more funding for a student if they are put in a special education program. So that includes the high honors and honors. That's why they push a lot of kids to do those programs, because they get more. But it also includes the kids that have limited, the STARS programs, whatever they call them. The kids that are not performing up to the standard that they should be performing at. The schools get more money for that. So yes, parents, what do I always say? Take more of an onus and responsibility. Put some of your kids into these apprenticeship programs. Let's have more homeschooling opportunities. Let's have more trade schools. I don't understand. And it seems like this is what this program is pushing. It seems like that would benefit the Black community more than any other community. But this is supposed to be the racist rhetoric that's going to bring me back to shackles? Make it make sense. So let me read from it. I got it on the I got to share it on the screen, but I'm going to read for you about halfway through the page. It says the Noxious, maybe I may be pronouncing that wrong. The Noxious tenets of critical race theory and gender ideology should be excised from curricula in every public school in the country. These theories poison our children, who are being taught on the one hand to affirm that the color of their skin fundamentally determines their identity and even their moral status, while on the other, they are taught to deny the very creatureliness that inheres in being human and consists in accepting the givenness of our nature as men or women. Allowing parents or physicians to reassign the sex of a minor is child abuse and must end. For public institutions to use taxpayer dollars to declare the superiority or inferiority of certain races, sexes, and religions is a violation of the Constitution and civil rights law and cannot be tolerated by any government anywhere in the country. But the pro-family promises expressed in this book and central to the next conservative president's agenda must go much further than the traditional, narrow definition of family issues. Every threat to family stability must be confronted. This resolve should color each of our policies. Consider our approach to big tech. The worst of these companies prey on children like drug dealers to get them addicted to their mobile apps. Many Silicon Valley executives famously don't let their own kids have smartphones. They nevertheless make billions of dollars addicting other people's children to theirs. TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and other social media platforms are specifically designed to create, hold on, I gotta go here. Specifically designed to create dependencies that, why didn't I just read it from here the whole time? It's much bigger. That's why dependencies that fuel mental illness and anxiety to fray children's bonds with their parents and siblings. Federal policy cannot allow the industrial scale child abuse to continue. Let me read that last sentence again. TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and other social media platforms are specifically designed to create the digital dependencies that fuel mental illness and anxiety to fray children's bonds with their parents and siblings. Federal policy cannot allow this industrial scale child abuse to continue. Does anybody have an issue with anything I just discussed? Let's start with the critical race theory. You know, in a different world, people would actually be upset if their kids, and this is the irony in all this. We know that the school systems are failing. We can't even trust teachers to teach our kids to read. And now you're going to trust them with teaching a topic as sensitive as slavery and the history of slavery and the history of the dynamics between black and white people to young kids. So the very people that we don't even trust that have demonstrated that they can't even teach kids how to read. Now we're going to trust them with teaching critical race theory. Now, people may sit here and say, well, it's our history, it should be taught. Okay. What if it's at the expense of black kids feeling oppressed, of black kids feeling less than? When they're sitting in a classroom and learning how, oh, they were slaves, the playing field's never, we're always going to have disadvantages, all these different things, rather than them being oblivious to it. If I don't think that I'm supposed to lose this race, when I go into a race, if I'm about to race somebody and I'm confident, do you think I want somebody telling me, well, actually, this is why you should lose the race? Because, you know, that person, they were able to train longer. They were able to train smarter. These are kids. I don't know about y'all, but I don't even want to leave that to a teacher to describe and to teach critical race theory, because totally honest, the stuff that I learned about slavery growing up, I don't even believe it anymore. When you do your due diligence and research, it's not adding up with what I learned in school. But these are the things that we fight and claw at tooth and nail to put into the school systems. But then it's like we don't even pay attention to the fact that the teachers can't even get the kids to read. It doesn't make any sense. So now the people that you have to fight against to force them to teach critical race theory, they don't want to teach it, a lot of them, right? So if they don't want to teach it, now you're forcing the teachers that don't want to teach it. Other teachers may want to teach it, but in my opinion, they're just going based off of the books that they've been given. And in my opinion, that's the wrong history anyway. But this is what you're left with. Now, these are the people that you're going to entrust to teach this sensitive topic that can shape the outlook of your kid's perspective for a very long time and how they see the world. You're going to trust that to these teachers? Stop being lazy and do what other successful cultures do and take a responsibility to teach your own kids history. And you know what may even happen? You may learn some things that happen a little bit differently yourself. Because most people that I talk to that are 50, 60, 70, 80, 40, whatever, y'all aren't reading books on history. We're not going back to read books like they came before Columbus. We're not learning about slavery. Maybe the story was told in reverse, how a lot of people were actually bringing from here to the European countries. We're not taught any of these things. Now, what you do the research your own and then come to your own understanding. But I just don't understand. So let's just keep going. Let's just keep going. I have some notes that I wanted to highlight of some things that I wanted to point out. So universal school choice. Hold on. Did I already cover all that? We may have already covered all that. All right, hold on. We're gonna go to the next page. We're almost finished. We only have a couple more pages. Okay, hold on. We got to talk about, it's on page 6. We got to talk about abortions. So I had a couple questions about the abortion topic. Let me bring my notes up over here. Hold on. Let me bring the notes up. All right. So a lot of people are familiar with Roe v. Wade. Maybe some people aren't. Maybe I should actually bring up what happened with Roe v. Wade. Roe v. Wade. All right. Roe versus Wade. All right. So let me tell y'all what the original Roe v. Wade decision was. It was issued by the U.S. Supreme Court in 1973. It established a woman's legal right to have an abortion under the 14th Amendment to the Constitution. The ruling, based on the right to privacy, effectively legalized abortion nationwide, striking down many state laws that restricted it. So they already restricted it, a lot of them. The decision was a landmark case that significantly shaped the legal landscape of reproductive rights in the United States. Y'all know how I feel about that term, reproductive rights. It is what it is. All right. Boom. Let me read. So this is what I had highlighted. I'll read the entire paragraph. Finally, conservatives should gratefully celebrate the greatest pro-family win in a generation, overturning Roe v. Wade. Okay, so let's actually look at what the overturning of Roe versus Wade did. Overturning Roe v. Wade. Do y'all have an issue saying that Roe v. Wade, which occurred in June 2022, with the Supreme Court's decision in Dobbs versus Jackson Women's Health Organization, eliminated the federal constitutional right to an abortion? This shift allowed individual states to regulate or ban abortions according to their own laws, leading to a patchwork of different abortion regulations across the country. Some states implemented strict abortion bans or severe restrictions, while others maintained more liberal access to abortion services. So before I read what I'm getting ready to read, let me ask you a question. In a democracy, people vote on certain things, right? So I'm not saying that this is how this works right now, and maybe we could do some more research on it. But in a true democracy, your state would vote on something. And if you live in a very conservative state, those laws may lean more conservatively. If you live in a more liberal state, they more liberal. Marijuana. There's certain states that you can smoke recreationally. There's certain states that you can't. If that's a big enough thing for you, then maybe you want to live in a liberal state. But it's based a lot on how the state feels, which side the state leans to, right? Is that how it should be? Should it be decided by the state, or are most people just saying, no, it should be open for everybody? I don't know. I'm just asking. Let me read the passage now. Finally, conservatives should gratefully celebrate the greatest pro-family win in a generation, overturning Roe v. Wade, a decision that for 5 decades made a mockery of our Constitution and facilitated the deaths of tens of millions of unborn children. But the Dobbs decision is just the beginning. Conservatives in the states and in Washington, including in the next conservative administration, should push as hard as possible to protect the unborn in every jurisdiction in America. In particular, the next conservative president should work with Congress to enact the most robust protections for the unborn that Congress will support, while deploying existing federal powers to protect innocent life and vigorously complying with statutory bans on the federal funding of abortion. Now, I stopped right there because that was something that I had a question on. Let me read that again. And my question was, wait, are they stopping the ban? Are they trying to ban abortions or banning the federal funding of abortions? And it may be both. In particular, the next conservative president should work with Congress to enact the most robust protections for the unborn that Congress will support while deploying existing federal powers to protect innocent life and vigorously complying with statutory bans on the federal funding of abortion. Conservatives should ardently pursue these pro-life and pro-family policies while recognizing the many women who find themselves in immensely difficult and often tragic situations and the heroism of every choice to become a mother. Alternative options to abortion, especially adoption, should receive federal and state support. I don't have a problem with that as far as alternative options to abortion, especially adoption, should receive federal and state support. I'm also saying that I may not agree with this. I think that I've kind of I'm on different places when it comes to this. I think that Planned Parenthood and abortions have been sold to Black people, along with I think it's just another one of those things that have been sold and promoted to Black people, pushed more to Black people than others. And matter of fact, I think white organizations have actually come out and said stuff like this, where the numbers of white families, because they're not having as many kids, they need to have more kids. But then in the Black neighborhoods, it seems like there's this encouragement of just having casual sex, which is going to lead to maybe not the not ideal circumstances that we talked about earlier when it comes to family and welcoming in children. So therefore, you're going to have a lot of these younger women that are susceptible to considering abortions based on where they are in life right now. So I think that on one end, Planned Parenthood is a disgusting organization that does not care about Black families, that does not care about the emotional, spiritual, physical things that a woman goes through when they have an abortion. And they just want to have more abortions because it gives them more money. Let's just be clear. Now, on the other end, I don't have to just be black and white. On the other end, I've spoken to women and I understand, like, okay, pro-choice. Okay. I disagree with these, having so many of these abortions. I think that, hey, by this date, let's come to an agreement. Okay, by this date, and I'm cool with that. So I don't agree with everything in here, but I also, just because I don't agree with everything in here I don't sit here and think that we're being thrown back in shackles. Read it. Y'all see if y'all like it, y'all see if y'all don't. You tell me if the same people that cared about that, it's funny how the same people that are fighting for people to be able to have abortions, those are the very same people that push a culture that promotes you to have casual sex and to have children out of wedlock. Y'all tell me if that's not what as a salesperson, what do a lot of companies, they have to create a problem. In order for you to justify buying my company's product, I have to create a problem to show you how my product solves that problem. Y'all get what I'm saying? So they've created a problem. They pushed the problem. Have casual sex. You don't need to be married. Just have sex. Have sex. Have sex. Oh, have sex young too. Let's keep pushing that culture. Let's have Meg Thee Stallion stand up there with Kamala, so we can so young ladies will hold Megan Thee Stallion in the same light as Kamala Harris, and then therefore when they hear Meg Thee Stallion lyrics, they'll be more inclined to do the things that Meg's talking about, which is going to lead to having all of these babies out of wedlock, irresponsible family situations, to where women are now more likely to feel that they need an abortion. And then we have our buddies Planned Parenthood so they can make a lot of money off the abortions. It seems very convenient. Maybe that's just from my perspective. All right, so the next thing that I wanted to touch on before we finish it out here, and I know this has been a little bit of a different show, but we're going to go through this stuff. Now, every time I may not go through the entire what I'm reading in the 2025 project like this, I may, depends on how y'all feedback is, but I may just create a different segment off of it. But for this first one, I wanted to let y'all know that we are going to do a deep dive. All right, so when I go to page 6, hold on, let's see. Hold on, I'm sorry. Page 10. We're going to go to page 10. And maybe I should have. I'll leave y'all the link. Matter of fact, let me leave the link in the chat just in case y'all want to. And sorry, I haven't been paying attention to the chat. Sorry, I haven't been paying attention to the chat. But that is the link as well that I just left in the chat. If you want to read the project 2025, I encourage it. I encourage it. I encourage it. All right, so let's go to page 10, and I want to. What am I reading? Where am I starting? This Wilsonian hubris. Hold on. Okay, I thought this was interesting. They write, today, nearly every top-tier U.S. university president or Wall Street hedge fund manager, one more time, today, nearly every top-tier U.S. university president or Wall Street hedge fund manager has more in common with a socialist European head of state than with the parents at a high school football game in Waco, Texas. Let me read that again. Today, nearly every top-tier U.S. university president or Wall Street hedge fund manager has more in common with a socialist European head of state than with the parents at a high school football game in Waco, Texas. Many elites' entire identity, it seemed, is wrapped up in their sense of superiority over those people. But under our Constitution, they are the mere equals of the workers who shower after work instead of before. Did y'all peep that? But under our Constitution, they are the mere equals of the workers who shower after work instead of before. It seems like this is bringing people together and tearing people away from the elite leadership. The elites are the ones that push all this propaganda, that use all the fear mongering, use all the hate stuff to make them as rich as possible so we can feel like in our minds, we think that they're relating to us. In all actuality, they don't care about anything but their pockets. They're not anything like the people that they represent, but swear that they're the best people to do something for those people. Let's keep going. This is as it should and must be. Intellectual sophistication, advanced degrees, financial success, and all other markers of elite status have no bearing on a person's knowledge of the one thing most necessary for governance, what it means to live well. Wow. Wow. That sounds very anti-establishment. That doesn't sound like it's locking black people up, putting black people in shackles. That sounds pretty blue collar to me. Just because you have an advanced degree does not mean that you're any better than me. Does not mean that you're any worse than me. That shouldn't be the determining factor in determining your elite status. Let's read that again. This is as it should and must be. Intellectual sophistication, advanced degrees, financial success, and all other markers of elite status have no bearing on a person's knowledge of the one thing most necessary for governance, what it means to live well. That knowledge is available to each of us, no matter how humble our backgrounds or how unpretentious our attainments. It is open to us to read in the book of human nature, to which we all are offered the key just by merit of our shared humanity. One of the great premises of American political life is that everyone who can read in that book must have a voice in deciding the course and fate of our republic. Progressive policymakers and pundits in America either fail to understand this premise or intentionally reject it. They enthusiastically support supranational organizations like the United Nations and European Union, which are run and staffed almost entirely by people who share their values and are mostly insulated from the influence of national elections. That's why they are eager for America to sign international treaties on everything from pharmaceutical patents to climate change to the rights of the child, and why those treaties invariably endorse policies that could never pass through the U.S. Congress. Like the progressive Woodrow Wilson a century ago, the woke left today seeks a world bound by global treaties, they write, in which they exercise dictatorial powers over all nations without being subject to democratic accountability. They are determining things on a world and global level that we would never vote for on a national level in order to get us to accept it and to live by their standards that they're pushing for rather than the standards that are created by the American people. What do y'all think? That's the end of our Project 2025 conversation for today. What do y'all think? Did I present it in a too objective way? Am I off? Is my understanding of it off? Or, and as of right now, I'm reading it and I'm saying like, oh, this makes sense. It makes sense why they don't want us to read it. Even if you hear certain people say, and I'm not sure, I was trying to think back if I heard Taraji or Joy Reid or Kamala actual say, read this Project 2025. Or if they just say, here's what Project 2025 is going to do to you. When you heard Jamal Bowman and AOC going crazy, this is what they're talking about. They're coming for our kids. Is that the energy that you received when I was reading this Project 2025? Is that the energy that y'all received? That's not what I received in it. Now, hey, I'm open. I don't know what's on the rest of the pages. But when you introduce what you're going to discuss in the remaining 900 pages in the beginning, and you set the tone for your objectives for it, it seems to me that those things would be established in the beginning. But I'm going to be open to it. And like I said, this is going to be a project that I'm committed to over the next 3 months. We'll see how much I get into it, how much I get rid of it. And who knows, maybe in 3 months, depending on who's president, maybe this will be more relevant. Maybe it'll be less relevant. Either way, we'll have more of an understanding on it. So that's where I want to leave it.